Okay, welcome friends. Good morning to everyone. Welcome to the Saturday Knowledge Sharing webinar organized by Meta and Meta. Thanks a lot for joining. Friends, today's topic we have is Insight into Secretarial Audit. A very pet topic to me. Personally, as a professional, I'm very passionate about secretarial audit, the importance, the more and more importance given to our profession due to this audit. And friends, rest assured, this audit will be more and more in depth, and the regulator will expect a lot more from us from this audit. Because, see, statutory audit talks about figures. All non-figure audit, compliance governance, which is a very core of any organization, and its importance is increasing day by day, and organization is also understanding the same is carried out by us, and hence we ourselves has to give importance to this audit than the other will give. I strongly believe this, that we should, whether others give importance or understand the depth and importance of audit, secretarial audit or not, but we should actually give respect and work hard towards its audit, then it will be understood by everyone. And such an important topic, we have with us veteran practicing CS Amita Desai, co-founder of Incorp Advisory Service Private Limited, a very old and good friend of me and us. To formally introduce Amita Desai, Amita is, Amita Desai is a seasonal professional with over 3 decades of experience in company law, capital markets, FEMA, and corporate restructuring. She is a fellow member of ICSI and insolvency professional. She was member of Secretarial Standard Board of ICSI for the year 2024 and was also a member of Task Force of ICSI on Company Law for the year 2024. She has recently joined as a co-founder with Incorp Advisory Services Private Limited, part of Global SNGM Group. Her team specializes in due diligence, support in IPO process, corporate secretarial advisory, merger amalgamation, and guiding startup towards robust governance and compliance frameworks. Welcome, Amita. Thanks a lot. She has contributed various articles on corporate law related subjects which are published in the Chartered Secretary Focus magazine of WRC Mumbai and e-magazine of the Mysore chapter. She is frequently invited as a guest speaker at prestigious forums such as ICSI, ICAI, IFC, and IIM Mumbai. Her extensive travels, including solo journeys, road trips, and mountaineering expeditions, offer her unique perspectives on life. Moreover, her active involvement with NGOs underscores her commitment to social value. Welcome, Amita.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your time. We will surely like to and learn from you, and we'd like to share your practical experience where you carried out secretarial audit and your view on the topic. With us, Mr. Bala is there, Sudhakar is there, everyone knows that, no need introduction. And today our presenter is Ms. Ravina Duggar. Ravina Duggar Agarwal has more than 5 years of experience in corporate secretarial and compliance field. Her experience includes working in manufacturing sectors like iron and steel and polymer, besides consumer sector industries. She has also worked with PCS in advisory role. Her forte includes LODR, DD, Secretarial Audit LLP, Corporate Legal Consultancy, HR, Placement Services. She is also associated with Institute as a career awareness program volunteer to help students to come to a career choice. Ms. Ravina is a partner, Mehta and Mehta of Calcutta branch. With this, I'll request Amita to say a few words on the topic, then Sudhakar, then Mr. Bala, and then Ravina, you can start your presentation.
Thank you, Dipti. Thank you for the introduction. And it's always a pleasure to be with Mehta and Mehta on this kind of a webinar which you people are arranging, which is very value addition and helpful for the young professional. Though we all are aware, and sector auditor and sector compliance certificate or audit report is not a new thing, but there are certain amendments. And this is the right time which I think you have selected this topic, where the amendment has recently come on 12th December 2024, where Regulation 24 of listing regulation has undergone substantial change, and there are it's a landmark for us also. Though the sector auditor has come into effect from 2019, but this amendment brings that how the appointment of a sector auditor will be by a shareholder of the company, like statutory auditor. So we have, our role has been elevated, and much more expectation of the regulators and society from sector auditor. Of course, as you mentioned, it is a non-figure, and it's off balance sheet or audit of compliance and governance. So we being a gateway, a keeper of the gatekeeper of the compliance and governance, this is a great opportunity for a PCS, for any peer-reviewed PCS and a firm. The appointment will be with a 5-year period, so that will ensure the independence of a PCS who is certifying without any fear, because they are appointed by the directly by the shareholder, of course recommended by the board, but appointment will be for a tenure of 5 year. I think, I'm sure Ravina will bring out and Sudhakarji will add on more on this topic. So that will be helpful for the entire fraternity. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Yes, Sudhakar.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Uh, as Amita and Deepti has rightly said, that today's topic is a very important topic and very close to all of us who are participating in this, either on the either side of the table, like you might be the auditor or you might be the auditee. So that about a decade before, the government has given that requisite, desired, rather deserved recognitions to our profession, both in the practice as well as in the service. If you are in the practice, you have been rewarded with secretarial audit. And if you have been in service, you have been rewarded with the recognition of key managerial personnel. This has, according to me, given requisite boost to our profession. Pardon my saying, but prior to 2013, most of the company secretaries, rather some of the company secretaries, whenever I used to interview them, they used to say that as if they are doing anything and everything in their organization other than what they are supposed to do, that is secretarial related activities. But post Companies Act 2013, the thinking is completely changed. And now the company secretaries are proud to say that they are the company secretaries. In the last 1 decade, a lot of changes have come in the profession. At the same point of time, I said in quite a number of forums that when the regulator has given the what's called deserved recognitions to us, as professionals, it is our responsibility to rise to the occasion and to prove our mettle. That means the kind of audits what we do and the kind of certification what we do, it should be impeccable. In the initial days, yes, there were some kind of shortcomings. Over a period of time, we could overcome those things also, because several company secretaries were also getting into the secretarial audit for the first time. They were not able to have that kind of expertise in pinpointing out the non-compliances. In fact, in 2018, if I am not wrong, Mr. Tyagi, who was the then chairman of SEBI, has expressed his displeasure in the public forum that he was not getting the kind of secretarial audit reports what he is expecting. But of course, a lot of water have flown down the bridge, and now we are at 2025. We got further flipped to our profession that the secretarial auditors are to be appointed by the shareholders for 2 terms of consecutive 5 years each.
Mhm.
This gives a lot of empowerment to the auditor in coming out with his audit reports very confidently and very boldly also. Because prior to that, always in the back of the mind, the secretarial auditor used to have a fear that if he spell out the things which he is supposed to do it, he may or he may not get the assignment for next year, because the appointment of secretarial auditors was on year-to-year basis. So now the requisite empowerment has come to the auditor. The way the statutory auditors is having his appointment for a period of 5 years, more or less the same conditions are there even for the secretarial auditors also. Similarly, for the compliance officers also used to have an issue earlier, because most of the times the compliance officer was reporting to the CFOs or the CEOs, and there used to be again some kind of a difficulty in ensuring the amount of compliances. So now again with the regulations amendment of 12th December, the compliance officer is supposed to report to the board of directors now directly. Of course, there is a clarification has come now subsequent to that, that if he is reporting to the managing director, that itself is reporting to the board of director. So regulator is giving the requisite support to the profession of company secretaries, whether you are in service or you are in practice. But the only thing is it is up to us now, because with the kind of recognition, the responsibilities also are attached to that. So we need to understand that it is high time for us, because if we are not able to discharge our responsibilities the way they are expected by the regulator, they may be dealing with us. I mean, not with a very soft corner, maybe. I mean, that any kind of non-compliances may not be taken lightly. They may be taking it very seriously. Before I give a pass to my this thing, one more thing I would like to say is, as key managerial persons or as compliance officers, both the Companies Act as well as the listing regulations have entrusted upon the company secretaries enormous and arduous responsibilities. And the way the regulations are getting getting amended from time to time, the kind of complexities, whatever are there, if you want to really get insulated, the compliance officer, who is the company secretary, has to ensure proper checks and balances. One of that is the secretarial auditor. So whenever the secretarial auditor has been selected, don't select a soft person, or ensure that that particular firm or that particular company secretary or whoever is the professional, he should be having requisite experience according to the size of your company, according to the nuances of your organization, and should be ensured that he will be able to meet the requirements. That is very, very important. At the same point of time, maybe I may also advise that medium-sized and big organizations, better to have, if not quarterly, half-yearly or secretarial audits, so that timely action can be taken in case of any kind of aberrations are there, rather at the end of the year. In fact, right from 2005 onwards, at Reliance, when I was working, we were voluntarily getting the secretarial audit done. That also on quarterly basis, and we used to place the quarterly audit reports, secretarial audit reports before the board to give the kind of confidence to the independent directors. So whether you place it or not, it is immaterial. But getting the audit, if not on quarterly basis, at least on half-yearly basis, it is always advisable. So I give a pause here. I request Bala to take it forward. Thank you.
Good morning to all of you. I have a great pleasure in welcoming you all for this particular session. We had a great personality, Amita, and as well as our Sudhagar on this topic. As Sudhagar puts it, even Amita said, what the recognition we want, we have got the recognition, but it is up to us to deliver and raise our bar. That is what it is actually required. In fact, we are very much privileged to be equipped with a lot of materials from our institute side, giving the various things on the secretarial audit, we give the guidance notes, etc., and other thing and all. We need to take care of it, because we have been talking, we are not treated like that of the statutory auditor. Now that we are treated that of the statutory auditor, I think we need to raise our level and we need to professionally deliver what is actually required. As Sudhagar puts it, I am again reiterating and emphasizing the same thing. In fact, today's session, I don't want to talk anything more than that. We want to hear more about the amendment, because the amendment has given the sea changes for us, actually giving the recognition, because the regulatory body from Companies Act, it is changed to LODR regulations. The appointment body has changed from board of directors to the shareholders. And again, appointment, reappointment, then peer review appointment. Many nitty-gritty issues and other things are there. And Ravina is actually going to take us through all these things. And as usual, I request all of you to put your queries and doubts in the chat box. We will be taking it from periodically and we will be addressing it to you. And at the end of the session, you may also raise your hand and we will permit you to speak and we can understand the thing before we go pick up from right from this current year onwards. This is going to be applicable because shareholders approval will be called for. So those things are there. So without waste of the time, I'll ask Ravina to take over the presentation, please.
I'll just, intervene because I'm leaving this webinar here. My one comment only that, friends, we also comment on the compliance system in our secretarial audit report that it commensurate with the size and operation. Keep in mind, it's a very big word and our contribution is required much. Further, secretarial standard, we all three are of secretarial standard board. When I am Sudhakar was member when it was made law. Friends, he was in employment, I was in practice. It was a combination. It is kept in mind the interest of our own profession. It is not the nuisance or burden to any CS. So please don't take it. It is for our protection and it is to be followed because this is a normal thing we say that a secretarial standard we can't follow. And the third thing is that with this, I'll request Ravina to carry on. And third thing I was telling that PCS or secretarial auditor should be taken as your support function, which will review the work and will guide you and advise. And together with the both CS who is getting done secretarial audit and secretarial auditor together will ensure that the organization will comply with all the compliances to the maximum extent. With that, thanks a lot. I will leave the webinar and if possible, I'll join since I'm out. Ravina, you can carry on. Thanks.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your insights. Good morning, everyone. Today, we are going to talk on the topic Secretarial Audit and Secretarial Compliance Report. As we know, today we celebrate day 8 of Navratri. Just as Mahagauri, the birth of the goddess Mahagauri happened. Just as Mahagauri embodies wisdom and insight, a company secretary must possess a deep understanding of the company's operation and the regulatory landscape to provide informed guidance. I'll start with the introduction. What is actually secretarial audit and why is it conducted? Secretarial audit is conducted to audit non-financial aspects of the company. It involves verification of records and all the papers which are provided by a company secretary to check compliance status of the company and accordingly provide provisions of various statutes, laws, rules, and regulations. It also helps us to accomplish the organization's objective by improving effectiveness of risk management, control, and government processes of the company. We see majorly 3 objectives of why we conduct secretarial audit, which is identifying non-compliance and inadequate compliances, protecting shareholders' interest, and preventing from actions, and thus helping the company to get the protection from any kind of non-compliance of any law. Annual Secretarial Compliance Report came into effect from 2019 as per recommendation of Sri Uday Kotak Committee. SEBI, in the circular dated 8 February 2019, stated that ICSI may consider issuing guidance note to practicing company secretary to enable them to undertake certification in accordance with regulation and this circular in letter and in spirit. There were 2 major amendments in SEBI LODR regulation dated 12th December 2024. One in Regulation 24A, one was substituted and 1A to 1C were inserted, and after 24A2, a new provision is inserted. Second, Regulation 36, subsection 5, Secretarial Auditor shall be appointed by shareholders and hence notice an explanatory statement to give certain information. So these two amendments where the SEBI has brought in its third amendment dated 12th December 2024, effective immediately. Regulation 24A, subsection 1, substituted with respect to appointment, removal, and resignation, inserted eligibility, qualification, and disqualification of secretarial auditor. 24A 1B inserted secretarial auditor not to render certain services. 1C was inserted to give effective date of compliance, that is April 1st, 2025. Regulation 24.2 proviso says that the secretarial compliance report submitted to the stock exchanges on annual basis is signed only by the secretarial auditor or by a peer-reviewed company secretary who satisfy the conditions mentioned in sub-regulation 1A and 1B of regulation 20A. Regulation 36, subsection 5, subrule 5 says notice of annual general meeting. In the notice sent to shareholders for an annual general meeting, in which the appointed or reappointment of secretarial auditor is included, shall have following disclosure as part of the explanatory statement to the notice. Proposed fees payable to the secretarial auditor along with terms of appointment, and in case of a new secretarial auditor, any material change in the fee payable to such auditor from that paid to the outgoing auditor, along with the rationale for such change. Basis of recommendation for appointment, including the details in relation to and credential of statutory auditor or secretarial auditors proposed to be appointed, listed certain disqualification for appointment or continuation of a secretarial auditor of the listed entity in Annexure 2 of the circular, and listed certain services that a secretarial auditor cannot render to the listed entity in Annexure 3 of the circular dated 31st December 2024. Now we see how much power does the SEBI has given to the company secretary, because as we see that even the changes, the proposed fee has to be mentioned in the explanatory statement to the notice, and the company has to justify the rationale for such change. Regulation 24A of SEBI LODR. Reporting on compliance observation as well as the action taken by the company on applicable SEBI regulation and circulars. Report on actions taken on past observations or remarks. Does it require to be included in annual report? No, it needs to be submitted by listed entity to the stock exchange. The timeline for submission is within 60 days from the end of financial year, and any peer-reviewed PCS or the firm can furnish the annual secretarial compliance report. Now we see applicability of secretarial audit
Ravina,
under. Yes,
you can go back to the amendments which have come. We'll talk about this later. See, Amita, let us discuss about the amendments which have come first, and then, of course, we will go to the nitty-gritties. So, according to me, these amendments are coming into the appointment or reappointment after 1st April 2025. They are to be made according to these amendments. That means what? When for the financial year 25-26, the secretarial auditor, whenever you are going to appoint him, that appointment is to be done by the shareholders at the AGM. So, appointment of secretarial auditor, if I'm not wrong, it is mentioned clearly that it is to be done at the AGM. Hence, it is a part of the ordinary business, not a part of the special business. The way the auditor's appointment, statutory auditor's appointment is part of the ordinary business, because for the sake of the participants, especially the budding members who have just joined the profession, ordinary business, you cannot transact at the extraordinary general meeting. Ordinary business is to be transacted only at the annual general meeting. Hence, appointment of the secretarial auditor is also to be at the annual general meeting only. Of
That's
course,
right.
if there is a casual vacancy, that is a different thing. Second thing is this appointment is to be done for a term of consecutive five financial years. So, in fact, is that some people used to think that we will appoint the secretarial auditor for a 2-3 years, whether it will be counted as one term. Because I have seen in some WhatsApp group this question, wherein some people are giving an impression that yes, you can appoint for 2-3 years, but that will be counted as one term. This is not correct. That is only in case of Section 149, where the independent directors, they can be appointed for a period of 1 year, maximum of 5 years. But if you are appointing for a period of 1 year, it will be counted as a one term. So he will be losing the remaining 4 years. He can be reappointed for another term of 5 years. But as far as the statutory auditor's appointment is concerned, you have to appoint him for a period of 5 consecutive financial years only. And same is the case with secretarial auditor in case of listed companies. Let us please understand this very clearly. These amendments, of course, everybody knows that thing, but just for the sake of clarification, I'm reiterating that these amendments on this appointment by the shareholders is only in case of listed companies. In case of unlisted companies, the Companies Act provisions are applicable. So there it is up to you. You can appoint year after year.
Absolutely.
And recently, one company secretary asked me a question that he has been appointed as a secretarial auditor by way of a board resolution. And in that board resolution, they say that so and so be and is hereby appointed as secretarial auditor till the time it is decided otherwise. That means more or less a kind of in perpetuity till the time the board decide to change the secretarial auditor, he can continue. He don't need to get appointed year after year like that. Now his question is, does he requires, it is a listed company, of course, he requires appointment by the shareholders? Answer is yes. For the financial year 25-26, the secretarial auditor's appointment requires the approval of shareholders, and he is to be appointed, as I told, for the period of one term of 5 years. Amita, you may kindly add further to this.
Yeah, I think the 24A regulation, which is completely substituted, has put the secretarial auditor at par with the statutory auditor. And the appointment is given, appointment should be made by the shareholder on the recommendation of the board. Now, the question comes whether it is an ordinary business and why the explanatory statement is required. But explanatory statement is required because it is a part of the regulation amendment. It suggests that explanatory statement under 36(5), regulation 36 subsection 5, subclause 5, it states very clearly the notice of the annual general meeting should cover appointment of the statutory auditor plus appointment of the secretarial auditor. For the secretarial auditor, this is a new regulation which is coming into effect. So the explanatory statement is also required. Though generally ordinary resolutions do not require the explanatory statement, this could be an exception. Having said so, the appointment also should be for 5 years term to provide the independence to the secretarial auditor. He can resign, he can be removed also by the shareholder. The appointment is by the shareholder, the removal should also by the shareholders. And only difference is here, the removal can be done by the shareholder without going to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs or the regional director, unlike for the statutory auditor. He is doing a statutory auditor, secretarial auditor is doing differently, but currently the provision is removal is possible through the person who is appointing, that is a shareholder. Resignation he can do on his own. But this question comes that why explanatory statement is required. So in the open forum also I see some questions. It's coming, but the major difference with Sudhakar ji has very clearly said that for unlisted company and public limited company where the section 204 is applicable, there is no need for the shareholders approval. You can do, like for the better governance, you can promote and you can pass the resolution in the general meeting, but it is not required and mandatory. So question should not come to the secretarial auditor that how can I do without appointment of the shareholders, because it's an unlisted company governed only by the Companies Act. So two statutes are different, two regulations are different. Companies Act plus listed company will be under regulation 24A. One more question about SME. listed company. For SME listed company, 24A is not applicable, and so there is no question of appointment by the shareholder. I think, again, if I can just elaborate on the eligibility and the qualification which has been specified in the separate amendment, the circular by SEBI on 31st December, where it has been very categorically given what kind of person can be appointed and who cannot be appointed. Rather, it's the other way around. Who cannot be appointed, there's a disqualification. Certain people who has directly or indirectly interest in the company, the entire bucket list is given. Those people, where directly indirectly talks about the control, significance, influence, and again indirectly influencing their decision, because he's connected person. So to keep the arm's length different distance and having the independence of the secretarial auditor, this qualification, or rather a disqualification, has been specified. Those individuals who are even having a person PCS peer reviewed, but he still cannot do if he's connected with somewhere with the group companies, holding subsidiaries, or the entire associate companies also mentioned therein. And certain services also cannot be done by the render, like statutory auditor also cannot render certain services. SEBI has brought in this, but again, the Companies Act has not made a distinction between the specification about the statutory auditor. So the question comes, Sudhakarji, again, that from the various group, whether the secretary auditor can provide investment banking advisory or something. We can address that when I think Ravina has some more presentation, so we can touch upon that.
Sure.
And effective date, as again Sudhakarji rightly said, that 31st March 2025 is a cutoff date. Before that, even if you have an association with the company, SEBI has given a fresh start from 1st April 25 onwards. So the 5 year of your relation with the company starts, your tenure start from 1st April 25-26 financial year for up to 5 years. So you cannot have less than 2 years. It's a violation, clearly. Yeah, over to Ravina again. Thanks.
Sudhakar and Amita, I think probably even the Companies Act also will get amended in respect to other companies as well, in line with the LODR regulations.
It should be, yeah. Slowly it will. This is the things will happen.
In fact, if I am not wrong, the company law amendment, that there is a committee has been constituted. That committee life is also extended. And definitely they have to, because of the changes, whatever have been made in the LODR, and whenever the Companies Act is going for further amendment, I'm sure that they will do all these things. More or less the same provisions for statutory auditor, they may extend to the secretarial auditor also.
We can take up some question parallelly so that we can.
Yeah, that Bala will moderate it. Amita, Bala will moderate that.
Yeah, Mr. Bala, if you can just take up the question also parallelly while the slides Ravina is presenting.
Yeah, we can do that.
Because it is very relevant about the who will sign, how, and which company. So the question is, you can just take it. B. Veena has put some question.
Yeah, somebody has actually put a question. When we say that the PCS should be actually a peer reviewed, please throw some more light. Whether the person in practicing on his own name and the name of the firm, audit is done by the firm. And why do we actually need the peer review or both the individual and the practice of the firm?
Sudhakarji, would you like to take up or should I take up?
Yeah, please go ahead, Amita.
Yeah, so I think the question is peer reviewed certificate. PCS who is holding the peer review certificate should sign. So even if he's a partner, at the partner level, ICSI guidelines have specified how the signature should be. So that's a peer reviewed person only who should sign, even at the partner level, as even if he's signing on behalf of the firm. Unless we are clear, Karthik ji has put the question. So if you can unmute Karthik ji if possible, if there is, or I think this is clarified. Sudhakar ji, if you want to add something more.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, Amita. In fact, the same is the case for the statutory auditors also. Wherever that peer review is required, the partner concerned also is to be peer reviewed. Whoever is signing the report, audit report.
Peer-reviewed company secretary means a company secretary in practice who is either practicing individually or as a sole proprietor or as a partner of a peer-reviewed practice until holding the valid certificate of the practice review issued by the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. This is what Karthik has actually put it. Yeah.
Yeah, that is my reply. Sorry to Karthik bhai. Yeah,
okay.
you can go through the next question.
Yeah. kindly cover the applicability of secretary SME that you already spoken. I think you said actually. Then not clear about the statement of the secretary audit is an audit only non-financial aspects, managerial remuneration, RPTs, CSR, and several other aspects are financial only.
Yeah, I replied that answer that yes, the annual sectoral compliance report is more on the compliance governance, but of course it is touching upon the remuneration, RPT, CSR. So financial, it is definitely. But we are talking that it is more on the governance because there are a lot of circulars, amendment of SEBI, which we have to specify yes, no on compliance. So it has a wider aspect than the MR3 or the sectoral audit report. In that sense, I think me and Dipti just suggested in the opening remark that it is more on the non-financial. But of course, the financials are also touched upon, and audit covers everything. That Ravina is beautifully presenting what are the things which should be covered. Yeah.
I think, see
Not,
that 1 minute, Bala, see that difference between financial aspects and the compliance aspects. The statutory auditor talks about more of the financial aspect, means the integrity, the accuracy of the financial statement, that fair and true and fair view, all those things will come as far as the financials are concerned in case of statutory audit report. In case of secretarial audit report, as Amita has said, that you are more into about the compliances, about the regulations, about the governance aspects, all these things we are talking about it. That is the only difference, no doubt about it. You also might be dealing with the financials, I mean, like managerial remuneration or RPTs or CSR. But again, if you see that managerial remuneration, also what we are looking into the compliance aspects of Section 197 or Section 198. And in case of RPTs, you are 188 or Regulation 23, like this it is. So the emphasis in secretarial audit, I don't need to say that, of course, everyone knows that very clearly, is more on the compliance and governance aspect than of the accuracy of I mean, financials or the figures there.
I
yeah.
will also add, if you, Ravina, if you can go above where Uday Kotak committee has suggested in 2019, the SEBI has very clearly mentioned. Ravina, if you can scroll up in your slide, there is a beautifully put that SEBI has suggested in 2019 February that ICSI should also guide and issue the guidance note to the members, suggesting that compliance should be in the letter and spirit. Yeah, you have highlighted this. So SEBI on 8th February, when the sectoral audit has come, they have also put certification should be with the regulation and the circular should be complied in letter and spirit, where they are expecting PCS to be compliant. I mean, PCS to report on the compliance and the governance. So from that aspect, we are saying it is non-financial also. But it doesn't mean that the financial we are skipping, but it is more on the other issue also. Yeah, thanks.
Not only that, Amarta, in fact, if you see some of the adjudication order passed by the regulatory authorities on the secretarial auditor, I've seen some of the orders on relating to the related party transactions. Because the secretarial auditor has actually, during the hearing said, the statutory audit did not say anything. I relied upon the statutory auditor report. That is why I had not said anything. I am relying upon that audit. That is what he said. And whereas the order explicitly says you can rely upon the audit for some results, but you have to form on your independent opinion. And they have referred the guidance note issued by the ICSI on the related party transaction. In fact, he has gone to such an extent, he reproduced the extracts of the guidance notes of the related party transaction, the ICSI. He said categorically, you are actually supposed to do this which you have failed to do it. He has imposed a penalty. So we need to go to that. Yeah.
There is the question of relying upon the statutory auditor's report. See, secondary auditor, in fact, let me also take this opportunity to say one more thing. Several secretarial auditors used to ask for the management representation letter. In fact, when I was in Reliance, one secretarial auditor, I think, in the beginning of when this secretarial audit was enforced, the beginning, we have been asked to give a management representation letter for almost 12 to 13 pages. And if you go through that, it is each and everything we have to give an information that the company has maintained proper board minutes, the company has issued proper notices for the meetings, the company has done this, the company has done that. Then we said, if everything we are giving management representation letter, what you are checking there? Management representation letter is required, the things what a secretarial auditor cannot check. For example, the name boards are to be displayed at all the branch offices, blah, blah, blah is there and all. That, of course, secretarial auditor cannot go there, or the statutory auditors cannot go there. In such cases, you will give a management representation letter. The company has maintained the books of accounts. Those things what a secretarial auditor cannot check, you can take a management representation letter. But for other things, according to me, management representation letter, even if you take, it cannot insulate you from your responsibilities and liabilities. Because secretarial auditor himself or herself has to check the things, whatever they are supposed to do it. They cannot rely on the report of the management representation letter, or they cannot rely upon the statutory auditor's report. And same is the case for statutory auditors also. They have to form an opinion on their own. They cannot say that, look, I have relied upon the secretarial auditor and I have given my report accordingly. Yes, especially both the auditors have to cross-check their draft reports, because it should not happen. One is reporting in another form and another, there is a kind of aberration between these two reports. Then both of them will be in trouble, as well as the company, of course. So it is the responsibility of the company secretary, who is holding the fort in the organization. He may have to arrange an informal meeting or formal meeting of the statutory auditors as well as the secretarial auditors, because there is a overlapping is there to a large extent, overlapping in the CARO as well as in the MR3 of secretarial audit report. There is some kind of overlapping is there. Wherever such overlapping is there, there should not be any kind of aberration in their reporting. That reporting should be harmonious. If at all any kind of issues are there, they have to sort out. All the three parties together, they have to sort out those things and ultimately come with a what's called as the report, which is not having any kind of aberrations. Yeah.
Subsidy of the listed company, and also if it is a private limited company, then what is the period to be taken?
Repeat, subsidiary company?
Subsidiary of the listed company, and also if it is a private limited, then what is the period to be taken?
If it is not a material subsidiary, then under 24A it won't come. It is required only for the company listed entity and its material subsidiary. So if it is a only private limited as a subsidiary company, they have to see the threshold about their turnover and about the borrowings, and then accordingly, if it is applicable, you are governed under Companies Act, not by the 24A regulation.
If the secretarial auditor is a relative of the CS KMP, can he continue to the audit for the financial year 24-25, or should he resign after effective date?
I think for 24-25 years must have already been appointed, and that also is not an independent, but that time this regulation was not there. But going forward from 1st April 2025 onward, he cannot be appointed as he is disqualified. If you see the annexer mention on 31st December 2024 circular of SEBI, it mentions he is disqualified if he's directly, indirectly connected or with the directors or KMP of company, subsidiary company. So entire bucket list is given, and they cannot be appointed from financial year 25-26 onward.
I think according to me, he don't need to resign even. He is disqualified.
He's not been appointed. Yeah, sorry.
Correct.
Next question, the ordinary business, special business, I think we talked about it. The firm and the signature party both should be the peer reviewed. The appointed can be then the consecutive years at the beginning from AGM and the end of the AGM. Yeah, that I think your reply. I think you give the reply. I think so. Okay. Yeah,
no, I'm not replied. Ashish Shah has put this question. The firm and the signatory partner both should be peer reviewed. Yes, I believe. Sudhakarji, correct me, but I think the firm and the signatory partner both should be peer reviewed according to my understanding. The appointment. Yeah, you agree, right?
Yeah, you're right. I also agree.
Appointment can be less than 5 consecutive years is the second question by Mr. Ashish Shah. Again, no answer is no. It's a sacrosanct for 5 years he has to be appointed. Like in the beginning only Sudhakarji has clarified. It cannot be for a term of 2 years, 3 years. He has to be. If not, then you are in violation of the regulation. And the further continuing question is beginning from, I missed that, beginning from AGM and ending at the AGM. Yes, I think from the first financial year 25-26, the appointment will come in the September 24 or maybe June 24, whenever the AGM is due for this financial year. From that AGM to the next 5 years for the financial year we are appointing. The appointment is for the financial year, but it will be done in the annual general meeting.
Yeah. From the first AGM when he is appointed till the 5th year end AGM, he will be. Yeah.
And
his question is
just one more thing. See that some companies, they might be having the calendar year as their financial year. Okay, so in that case, what happened is for the current financial year, that is 1st January 25 to 31st December 25, some companies take the calendar year as the financial year. Even for this financial year, if a listed company is there, they have to appoint the secretarial auditor as per the amended regulations. So in the forthcoming AGM of those companies, they have to appoint the secretarial auditor for a period of 5 years. That is 25 to then plus 5 years. Yeah.
Sudhakar, one small thing. It's only a question of, thinking, wide thinking. Somebody might say it is effective date is only from 1/4/25. So effective date is being 1/4/25. My financial year effective date after 1/4/25 starts only on 1/1/26. So it will be applicable for me from 1/1/26, not for 25. That argument may also come.
The effective date is 1st April 25. Suppose, for example, ABC Limited, which is having the AGM, say at suppose 30th June. Okay, in 30th June AGM, they are appointing the secretarial auditor.
No, they will talk about
financial. Is it not that appointment after 1st April 25?
No, they will say financial year 1st April, you are saying. My financial year already started 1st January.
They have not said financial year and all. They said that any appointment or reappointment after 1st April 2025, this amended regulations are applicable. So according to me, that appointment whichever is being taken up after 1st April 25, that appointment should be under the amended regulations.
So the argument could be, again, from both the side, I'm just for the benefit of the audience, I'm questioning that my calendar year ended on 31st of December 2024. My AGM already completed on, say, 31st March 2025. Because normally it should be by within 6 months, but I'm a very prudent company's governance, and I completed my AGM also on 31st March. Should I open again my AGM? Answer is no. And then they can continue. But if your AGM is after 1st April 2025, then definitely this application, because the effective date is from after 1st April 25. So depending on the two scenario, if your AGM is already completed, then it's okay. Not after 1st April you are conducting your AGM, then yes, it is applicable and you have to appoint. That's my answer.
One minute, Amita, here there is a twist here also. Suppose, say, for example, if you are appointing, if your AGM is concluded before 31st March 25, and you are not appointing him under the amended regulations, so you cannot appoint the secretarial auditor for a period of 5 years.
Correct.
You can appoint only for the calendar, the financial year 2025. In the next AGM, he is to be appointed for a period of 5 years.
Correct.
That 5 years will be, this 1 year will not be counted for that particular purpose.
Correct.
So let me clarify that very clearly. If at all you are concluding your AGM before 31st March 25, since the appointment of the secretarial auditor is being made before 1st April 25, the amended regulations are not applicable. Because of that, you cannot appoint them for a period of 5 years. Suppose somebody is having the AGM at 31st March 25 and you are appointing for a period of 5 years without going to the shareholders. Because you don't need to go to the shareholders, right? So board has appointed him for a period of 5 years. Can he do the answer is no. Board can appoint at the most for the calendar, that financial year of 2025 only. After that, that they are to be appointed a fresh going to the shareholders and for a period of that, one term of 5 years or whatever it may be. That's what my view is.
Sudhakarji, again, some smart company secretaries or smart board assuming that they do AGM, because amendment came on 12th of December 2024. Everybody is aware that 1st April 25, they have to appoint for 5 years. 31st March, I had my AGM and I appointed through the shareholder for 5 years. Then also, next year, he has to be reappointed if it is not filling into the criteria of what is suggested under regulation 24A. That's our answer, because people will throw those questions also. So from this platform, I want to clarify that even if after 1st April next year, for the financial year 26, they should ensure that effective date is crossed 1st April 25. Now they have to see about the disqualification relation. If he's imparting some certain services, then that person, even on 31st March, you may say that 5 years he's been appointed, but if he's disqualified, he has to step down and resign, and he has to be in compliance with regulation 24A disqualification also. Thanks.
A listed company has actually transferred the entire stake in a private company, which was actually a material subsidiary in October 24. Now, whether the secretarial audit would be applicable for the financial year 24-25, as the company is no longer a deemed public company, and borrowing of the private company is not exceeding prescribed limit as on 31/3/25.
I think this is the applicability, whether this threshold is applicable on what date I have to consider. So it is a preceding financial year, if I'm not mistaken, Sudhakarji. That's a previous financial year, and then accordingly I have to see whether I am a material subsidiary or not.
See, that material subsidiary, as far as is concerned, as you rightly said, you have to consider the previous financial year only. Based on that figures, you have to see that whether it is falling under the definition of material subsidiary or not. During the year, if it ceases to be a material subsidiary, still you have to have that audit and all those things, because you are taking the accounts. I mean, okay, you are taking the what's called as the status of the material subsidiary as on the previous year audited financials, not in the current financials. So because of that, you have to have the secretarial audit and you have to attach it to the report of that. Next financial year, you may escape.
No,
Number
I
one.
think
Number two, let me also say one more thing. This amendment, of as far as the threshold limits, of course, what now Ravina is going to take up this particular slide, which is there. In fact, prior to 2020 Companies Act, this Amendment Act 2020, that you have to consider the latest audited financials that was not there. They said that simply they are given the threshold limits. That means the moment your threshold limits are triggered, you have to comply with the provisions, even during the year also. So there are 2-3 companies which are, in fact, got the, they thought that only next financial year it is applicable, and they are not appointed the secretarial auditor, and of course they received show cause notices and all from the regulator. Only post 2020 Companies Amendment Act, you have to determine the applicability of secretarial audit under 204 based on the previous year audited financial statements. Prior to 2020 Companies Amendment Act came into force, at any point of time, if you trigger the threshold limits, you have to have the secretarial auditor. Because some companies are getting the show cause notices for not appointing the secretarial auditor prior to Companies Amendment Act 2020 in the recent past. This is what I have been told. So this is what the law for that thing is.
Yeah, so I think the question is the borrowing is increased in October 24, then whether the company should require to do the audit, take the sector auditor or audit report for financial year 24-25. That's her question.
Yeah,
October
yeah, you have
24,
to.
the threshold. Yeah, so then you have to, because your borrowing exceeded. And then you are under Companies Act, you are following under 204, and the applicability is there. Yeah, I think she has put here the slide. Yeah, Ravina. We can ask Ravina to proceed, and otherwise there are more questions coming.
Yeah,
Whatever.
we will take it. We will proceed with the presentation. Then we'll
because
take
some
this question
questions
later.
may be answered by Ravina as a presentation also.
Right. Yes, Ravina, you can proceed.
So now we move towards the applicability of secretarial audit, like which company has to get the secretarial audit done. For listed company, all companies whose any securities listed on stock exchange has to get secretarial audit report. Public company having paid up share capital more than equal to 50 crores, having turnover more than 250 crores, and outstanding loan from bank or PFI more than or equal to 100 crores. For private company, any private company who is a subsidiary of a public company has to get secretarial audit report from a secretarial audit, and if its outstanding loan from bank or PFI is more than 100 crores, then also a private company is applicable for secretarial audit. To be noted that the paid up share capital, turnover, or outstanding loan or borrowing, as the case may be, existing on the last date of latest audited financial statement shall be taken into account. For say, if a public company is having a paid up capital of rupees 40 crore on 31st March 2025 24, and on April or May it increases to 50 crores, still the company is not applicable because we'll take the latest audited financial statement. Under Regulation 24A of SEBI LODR Regulation 2015, and all the listed company and material unlisted subsidiaries incorporated in India has to get secretarial audit report only by peer-reviewed PCS or firm in format provided under Form MR3. Material subsidiary is one whose income or net worth is more than 10% of the consolidated income or net worth, respectively, of the listed entity and its subsidiaries in the immediately preceding financial year. Listed entity who has got exemption as per Regulation 15 are whose paid up capital is less than 10 crore, whose net worth is less than 25 crore, and their specified securities are listed on SMA exchange. They are listed from following the Regulation 24A of SEBI LODR.
I think on your slide it is paid up capital more than 10 crores. It is mentioned like that. I think the symbol is wrongly mentioned. It is.
Okay.
Am I correct, Ravina?
Yeah.
In the
Yes,
previous
sir.
slide, paid up capital is greater than 10 crore.
Right, sir. So it will be less than that.
So you are talking about exemption. So exemption is less than 10 crores and less than 25 crores.
Correct, sir.
Hmm.
We will be elaborating the slides by following example. Say PAL Limited is a subsidiary of LAL Limited. In financial year 23-24, the net worth of PAL Limited was 190 crores and the consolidated turnover of LAL Limited was rupees 800 crore. Where PAL Limited be considered as material subsidiary of LAL Limited? Yes. PAL Limited shall be considered as a material subsidiary of LAL Limited as net worth of PAL is more than 10% of the total net worth of LAL.
Again, here it is not consolidated turnover, it is consolidated net worth.
Yes, sir. Consolidated net worth. It is consolidated income or net worth. So, consolidated net worth it will be. Next example is LAL Limited wants to appoint KS and Associates, a PCS firm, as its secretarial auditor for 5 consecutive years. Can they appoint so? No. KS and Associates should be a peer-reviewed firm. Then LAL Limited can appoint KS Associates. The recent amendments which has come in the LODR notification dated 12 December are that 24(1)A will be applicable to every listed company and its material unlisted subsidiaries incorporated in India. Manner of appointment or reappointment on recommendation by the board and with the approval of shareholders in the AGM. The tenure of secretarial auditor will be one term of 5 consecutive years if the auditor is individual, or 2 terms of 5 consecutive years each for a PCS firm. The cooling period between the next appointment is 5 years, and any association before effective date should not be counted. Entity can remove the auditor with the approval of its shareholder in its AGM, or secretarial auditor can resign from such office before completion of tenure. Like if the casual vacancy arises out of resignation, death, or disqualification, the vacancy shall be filled by the board within a period of 3 months, and the auditor shall hold office till the conclusion of the next AGM.
Here, Ravina, there are certain questions about the removal of the auditor, sector auditor. Unlike the statutory auditor, we do not require any central government approval for such removal, and the shareholders can appoint, remove him. There are some questions in the chat box. So, yeah, go ahead.
I have explained these two amendments with certain cases. Let us discuss these cases first and then we can take up the questions. So case 1 says La Limited wants to appoint KS and Associates, a PCS peer-reviewed firm, as their secretarial auditor for 3 consecutive years for one term. Can they appoint so? So the answer is no. KS and Associates should be appointed for 5 consecutive years, provided if there is any other guidelines that restricts the entity to do so. For example, RBI guidelines says that the auditor should be appointed for 3 years. Then the banking institution or financial institution can appoint auditor for 3 years rather than appointing for 5 consecutive years. Or any PSU where the DPAM guidelines says that the auditor has to be appointed for the X years, then they can appoint for the X years. Case
Anyway,
2.
as on date, I don't think that RBI regulations talk about the secretarial auditor appointment. It talks about the statutory auditor's appointment.
Statutory auditor. Yes.
So for secretarial auditors, till the time RBI revise their guidelines, you don't need to worry about that. It is not for 3 years for secretarial auditors.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, there is nothing has come from RBI on this.
Case 2 says Lal Limited wants to appoint KS and Associates as their secretarial auditor for 5 consecutive years for one term. Now, KS and Associates have been their secretarial auditor since 2020. Can they appoint so? Yes, entity can appoint KS and Associates as before the amendment, the year of service will not be counted. So from 2025, the 5 consecutive years will be counted.
I think there are certain questions in the chat box about this also. My previous association should be counted. Answer is no. Your fresh start starts from 1st April 2025. Yeah. Yeah, Ravina, please.
Case 3 says La Limited wants to appoint KS and Associates as their secretarial auditor for 5 consecutive years for one term. Can they appoint so? Yes, KS and Associates can be appointed for one term and after expiry of one term again for another term as it is a firm. So they can be appointed for 2 terms consecutively. After that, they have to give 5 years of cooling period. Then again, KS and Associates can be appointed. Case 4 says Lal Limited wants to appoint Kamal, partner in SKT and Associates, who is also a partner in KS and Associates. KS and Associates have just completed their 2 tenure of 5 consecutive years. Can Lal Limited appoint SKT and Associates as their secretarial auditor? The answer is no. On the date of appointment, no secretarial audit firm having a common partner or partners to the other secretarial audit firm whose tenure has expired in the listed entity immediately preceding the financial year shall be appointed as secretarial auditor of the same listed entity for a period of 5 years. So even if they want to appoint SKT and Associates, they have to give a 5-year of cooling period because SKT and KS share same partner who is Kamal in our given example.
Again, there is no ratification required during this 5 years. You can ratify if you want, but even if it is not been ratified, the term is for 5 years. So legally, no ratification required.
La Limited wants to remove K and Associates in mid of the tenure due to certain dispute. Can it do so? Yes, but only in annual general meeting with the approval of shareholders, not in EGM or board meeting. Since it's an ordinary business, it can remove KS and Associates, but by the approval of shareholders in annual general meeting.
By AGM.
I doubt.
The
Sorry,
removal can be in
can
the
be in the
EGM also.
EGM
You don't
also.
need to wait for AGM.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
It is
if
just
we are
Remove.
mentioned
talking
as the
about,
shareholder should remove. It can be
yeah,
through
if
the
the
EGM also.
yeah, if we are talking about the middle of the year, you cannot allow them to continue for the till the end of the year and wait for the AGM.
So I
You
think
have to come for
Ravina,
the EGM, you have to get it
yeah,
removed.
Ravina, for appointment he should be only through the AGM, only for the appointment, but removal can be in the by the shareholder. It mentioned by the shareholder. The regulation doesn't say AGM for the removal. It says remove should be
If I
by
am
the
not
person who is
wrong,
appointing.
the words used is appointment or reappointment or continuation of secretarial auditor with the approval of shareholders at the AGM, not removal. Removal can be in the AGM also.
Okay, sir.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, LODR doesn't say anything on this, so it should be like that. It can be the EGM. Yeah.
Okay, I'll check it, sir, and make this correction because I thought it's in AGM.
No, only appointment AGM, removal by the shareholder is the word.
Okay.
Yeah.
KS and Associates want to resign in mid of the tenure due to personal reason from La Limited. Can it do so? Yes, K and Associates do not have to wait till AGM, but the company has to fill the casual vacancy within 3 months till the conclusion of the next AGM. KS and Associates resigned from La Limited and the company filled casual vacancy by appointing RD and Associates till conclusion of the coming AGM. Now, can the company appoint RDA and Associates for next 5 years for one term? Yes, the company can appoint RDA from the conclusion of this AGM to the conclusion of 6th AGM. Can La Limited appoint KS and Associates in extraordinary general meeting? No, as per the proviso says appointment of secretarial ordinary auditor is ordinary business and hence should be appointed in annual general meeting. Sir, if you want to take any questions now, then we can take
Yeah.
then.
Sure, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Let me see where I left the last question.
I think Karthik ji has question at 11:37. His question I'll just read out. He says that when we say that PCS firm should be peer reviewed, please throw some more light. Where a person is practicing in his own name and not in the firm's name, audit is done by the firm only. Do we need peer review of both the individual practice and the firm? I believe both. The individual also who is signing should be peer reviewed, and the firm should also be the peer reviewed. The next his question only is that if my new partner is not having a peer reviewed, can he certify? No, that new partner should not certify. He is not a peer reviewed certificate holder. Bala sir, can you see from 11:18?
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing.
SEBI
Now,
equity.
now here people say two PCS are ID in one of the company. Further, in other company, one CCS is an ID and one is auditor. Is it valid?
Not clear the question. Sorry, sir.
Two practicing company secretary or ID in one company. Further, in the other company, one company secretary is ID and one is the auditor. So whether it is valid.
No, you have to check about the disqualification. If there are connected person, the SEBI has given a circular on 31st December. If they are directly, indirectly connected, he's independent director. He in his own company he cannot be. So, I think that's what I understand. You have to see he's independent and not connected directly or indirectly, whether by significant influence, control, or in any other way. So, answer should be no, if I understand the question correctly. Yeah.
Is secretarial auditor is liable by retire by rotation?
It's a 5-year term. So yeah, after 5 years, there's a cooling period of more 5 years, and then he can be to maintain the independence that he's not influenced.
Only one thing, there is the question of auditor retiring by rotation. We never heard of this terminology. Only in case of directors, it is their director retiring by rotation.
I
So
think they are
auditor
meaning about
never
the
retires by rotation.
rectification. Ratification, maybe.
I think probably they are talking rotating the partner of the audit firm. That is what I think. So probably that could be the question. Because the statutory auditor rotating the signing partner.
So
I
the
think
firm
probably
can be for 2 terms. After that 2 term, even if you rotate the partner, the firm cannot be appointed after 2 term. For individual, it is 1 term. For a firm, it is a 2 term of 5 year. So after 2 term, the third year, you can't say my partner is rotated and now the new partner will sign. If that is a question, then no, not possible.
anyway, LODR that is actually silent. It's only, as you rightly say, it is a 2 terms of 5 years each. That is all. Nothing is there on that. Okay. Either secretarial auditors or relative of the KMP should be resigned immediately, well, from 1st of April 2025 or in the next AGM.
After 1st April 2025, he should not be continuing because he is a disqualified as per the SEBI circular.
Yeah, that's what Sudhakar said actually.
But
Disqualification, there is no.
again, people are confusing if the secretarial auditor is not under 24 Regulation 24A and it is governed by the Companies Act, then the answer may be different. But ideally, it should be independent secretarial auditor. He should not be connected with the KMP. Even the Companies Act does not specify that, but I think Sudhakarji may throw some more light. And
What is that? What is the comeback?
the secretarial auditor should not be connected with the KMP. Even if it is Regulation 24 is not applicable under Companies Act also, he should not be appointed as a secretarial auditor.
Yeah.
Because he lose his independence, he's influenced by the KMP.
Conflict of interest will be there.
Conflict of interest.
Can secretarial auditor certify various forms required to be filed with the ROC RD for the said company whose audit he has taken?
Sorry, I missed the...
Can secretarial auditor certify various forms required to be filed with ROC RD, the said company whose secretarial audit he does?
Ideally,
See, these kind of questions we should not answer. What we have to say is only one thing. Whether a person can be appointed or not appointed as secretarial auditor, please see the disqualifications and qualifications. If he is qualified, do appoint. If he is disqualified, don't appoint. You can ask different permutations, combinations, saying either way it is going to be maybe a wrong answer. We don't know. Similarly, secretarial auditor is not to render certain services. That, of course, I think again that is yet to be displayed by Ravina. So that point of time, we will see that what are those services. Other than that, you can always render those services, right? And at the same time, I was quickly going through, unfortunately, what Ravina has put in that removal of secretarial auditor is correct. Because the regulation says that nothing contained in these regulations shall prejudice the right of the entity to remove the secretarial auditor with the approval of its shareholders in its annual general meeting, or the right of the secretarial auditor to resign from such office of the listed entity. That means removal of secretarial auditor is to be done only at the AGM. Okay. So that is the law. So we have to say that how you will be able to, in between the year, I think you may not be able to do that. It has not said approval of the shareholders in a meeting. They said that approval of shareholders at the AGM. That is one issue. Second thing is also that, in fact, the casual vacancy arising out of resignation, death, or disqualification of a secretarial auditor shall be filled by the board of directors of the listed entity within a period of 3 months, and the secretarial auditor so appointed shall hold the office till the conclusion of the next annual general meeting. So this means what? In case of a casual vacancy, the secretarial auditor who is going to be appointed, it is the right of the board to appoint such secretarial auditor. You don't need to go to the shareholders for their approval. The auditor whom you are appointing in the casual vacancy, the board can appoint, who will be holding that position till the next AGM. At the next AGM, you can appoint him for a period of 5 years or anybody else also. Okay.
So this is a lacuna actually. This is a gap where the resignation is given during the year. The board will appoint anybody of their choice for that financial year. Because
casual vacancy is okay, but removal can be only at the AGMs.
That is also a bottleneck because removal happens in between. and then again the company need to go and call the AGM. And how do they conduct in the ordinary business during the year? The financials are not covered. So I think SEBI may come up with some clarification here. This should be not the annual general meeting ideally, because it's an
No,
issue.
maybe Amita, see what they want is that removal should not happen. See, removal means what? There is a kind of an issue. So they are actually protecting, according to me, they are protecting the secretarial auditor. They should not just casually remove a person in between the year.
No, that's
They
okay,
want
sir.
that.
But annual general meeting, annual word is wrong. It could be by
Ah,
any general
they should
meeting.
have done it in the general meeting.
Yeah,
That is
because
the
the
only thing.
shareholder are
Yeah, yeah.
appointing, shareholder has a power to remove, but why AGM? During my year, suppose in February I want to remove him, I can't call AGM. What do I conduct the ordinary business? So I think this may be fine-tuned by the SEBI. Maybe we need to raise this question, because here ideally it should be general meeting.
And
So,
similarly, if I am not wrong, in case of statutory auditor, in the casual vacancy also, when he is appointed, I think he is to be appointed by the approval of shareholders, if I'm not
yeah,
wrong.
Yeah, for
correct.
the
You are right,
statutory
actually.
auditor, yes, within 3 months,
Yes,
you are correct.
casual vacancy, he has to be appointed by the AGM only. But
But
here
here
when
it is
you say,
not. But here it is not required.
Not
Here
required.
board,
That's
yeah, board can appoint the secretarial auditor who will be continue as secretarial auditor till the next AGM of the company.
So these
so
are
that,
two, I think, open issue. We should bring that to
yeah,
the notice
that
to
means
the SEBI.
they made it something like a appointment of the additional director. That sort of the provision they have brought in. Not
Correct.
in line with the statutory auditor. Because statutory
Correct.
auditor, although
Yeah.
appointed by the board, it is subject to the approval of the shareholders, actually. Yeah.
But
Yes.
sir,
Okay.
they are anyway holding till the conclusion of next AGM. So like till the AGM only, they can hold in casual
No, but in
vacancy.
the
After,
No,
AGM,
no, no,
Ravina,
no.
if I
Ravina, in statutory auditor, even if they appoint the casual vacancy, it is again in the extraordinary general meeting that has to be approved by the shareholders. That is the provision in case of the statutory auditors. Yeah.
they have nowhere mentioned general meeting. Everything is happening in annual general meeting.
Then there is a problem, because in between, if you want to remove it or something like that, you can't wait till the end of the year.
Mhm.
Anyway, I think as Amrita said, SEBI might come out with a clarification on this. Is it necessary for the secretarial auditor to just check the compliance and the general laws also to understand the compliance system exists in the organization? I think Ravina is going to give the checklist of the audit, etc., that is get addressed. Can ICSI list out total number of the company secretary versus the total number of the companies requiring CS, in-house CS? I don't think we should be able to answer this question. This is a
this
sort
is
of a
not
census
so
question.
long. Yeah.
What is the position of the appointment of the secretarial auditor? He is acting for the last many years of a company. I think that you addressed, actually. In fact, you
That's
said
been
whatever.
given.
Yeah, that has been
That
addressed.
answer. The fresh start from 1st April to be considered. The
Yeah,
earlier association before 1st April should not be considered.
yeah. Secretarial auditor applicability, turnover, paid up share capital threshold not applicable to the company, but it is borrowing or more than 100 crores. Then,
We replied that it is
yeah,
applicable
okay.
as soon as your borrowing is exceeding. That
Okay.
has been replied, yeah.
Yeah. The appointment of the secretary consider ordinary. That I think you answered, actually. Mm. Is it required the regulation 24 suggests for its explanatory statement? Yes, that also you addressed, I think. You have given the answer also to this. The secretarial auditor is a relative of the KPCS continue for the year 24-25. Should he resign? This also, I think you answered this. Please discuss the compliance that we check while doing a secretarial audit in the public listed company.
I think today we are not discussing about the detail, because secretarial audit and secretarial compliance certificate audit is quite old. This seminar, the webinar is particularly for taking care of the new amendment in the light of SEBI circulars on 12th December and 31st of December 24.
It is a good suggestion to have the regular meetings between the statutory auditor, secretarial auditor, quality quarterly basis. Event is a limited review. So that some suggestions in connection with the auction can be brought into the notice of the audit committee during the year itself. Yeah, that is a
Yeah, that's
somebody has.
absolutely good suggestion that both the auditors should meet frequently on the quarter to quarter. In fact, the internal auditor also should be meeting, and that's how the secretarial auditor is expected to conduct on a concurrent basis, quarter to quarter. Meet the internal auditor, meet the secretarial auditor, statutory auditor, and give some suggestions so that it is not a post-mortem of thing something. It should be corrected immediately if not there. That's a good suggestion. Yeah, that's how it should be.
In this webinar, those details are not going to be covered. Ravina said, what is the scope of this seminar? So we will be covering only those scope of this seminar. If the secretarial auditor appointed one term of 5 years, either approval from any authority requires, like the central government in case of the statutory auditor, removal company, or it can just board of directors.
No,
I
board of
think
directors cannot remove. It is through the shareholders, and that's what we had discussed now, only just a minute before, that it should be in AGM, but no RD or no central government approval is required for removal. That
could you
also
please
maybe we can suggest to be at par with the statutory auditor, but currently it is not. It is just the shareholder can remove.
Could you please explain the appointment of secretarial auditor? As per the latest amendment, is actually for 3 years has been completed from the need. You talked about
April 2025.
Yeah. What if appointment of the secretarial auditor is pending for the year 24-25 and the company is appointing secretary after April 25? Appointment should be as per the amendment.
Yes, it should be after amendment, 1st April. Regulation 24 applicable after 1st April. Yes.
For the financial year ended 31st 24, if the notice of GCM issued before 31st of March, still amended regulation is applicable.
If your AGM is after 1st April, then yes, you have to send the addendum to the notice. Yes, even the notice has been sent, but date of AGM falls after 1st April 2025, then yes, regulation 24A becomes effective date. It's becoming, you have to change and send the addendum to the notice.
Company may not disclose any penalty on them or non-compliances by SEBI, stock exchanges, or any other bodies. In such a cases, MGT
Management representation
management
letter.
representation to be required by the PCS. Maybe secretarial auditor may ask the company to share such information and also action taken by the company so that the same can be reported, secretarial audit report, any other suggestions.
I think show cause notice we are not privy to, but all the penalty already imposed, paid, it will be appearing from the company's ledger. Non-compliance, we can always find out. We can't rely on the management representation letter. We have to do everything, and if the only thing we can cover in the management representation letter is show cause notice, which we are not privy to, and we can cover that the management confirm that there is no show cause notice received or any litigation is going on. Rest, I think we all come to know about if there is any penalty has been even it is not disclosed to you, you can find from the ledger if the company has paid any penalty. Individual board has paid and they will penalize, you can appear. I mean, still have a check on the SEBI's website, BSE stock exchange. It is appearing
I
everywhere.
think even the annual report, they are bound to disclose the penalty imposed on the committee and the various authorities, their status, isn't it?
Correct. But the last minute, if there's a show cause notice received, that may be the point. He's saying that
Yeah,
it's
correct.
disclosed.
Yeah, show cause when
Non-compliance.
notice you may not.
Penalties
Yeah.
imposed, penalty imposed and paid is appearing in the balance sheet, but non-compliances, you have to dig out what are the non-compliance. That's the duty. We cannot put it on the management representation letter.
Okay. For verification of the compliances, we should the historical figures are not the figures of Indes, FS, the case. How should we rely on the management while accepting the historical figures from them? Are we supposed to check the reconciliation?
I did not understand this question. Where are the figures we are checking about the index? It's a consolidated figure. What is the historical figure means? It's for that financial year, whatever figures are there, we have to report on that. So Dakarji can take up this question. I could not understand the question.
What is the question? I couldn't understand that.
Yeah, companies may not disclose any penalty imposed on
No,
them.
Bala sir, it is
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
verification
okay.
of compliance.
Sorry. For verification of compliance, we should use the historical figures and not the figures of index. In that case, how should we rely on the management while accounting historical figures from them? Are we supposed to check the reconciliation?
It is a between the
Why?
normal balance sheet and the in days adjustment of financial statement. Which one to be accepted? That's what the question I
No, no,
feel.
but the question comes where you have to check the figures of the balance sheet as a secretarial auditor. In
Maybe
what
for
sense?
related party transaction threshold, or maybe that she must be
So you
talking
have to
about.
say transactions, you should not say the presentation. Index is only a presentation. You have to see the actual transactions.
Correct. So the figures, actual figures, whether the threshold is like for
See,
related party transaction.
Amita, what I'm saying is that as a secretarial auditor, you are more concerned not with the figures. You are more concerned with the resolutions, what they have taken, what sort of transactions have been entered into. How the figures will help you, tell me.
No.
Where
I
from the
think her question, what I assume, is relating to threshold limit exceeded or not, borrowing exceeded or not. What is the figure I should check? In days figure, the actual figure, the actual figure.
actual figures
I
you
mean,
have to take it.
yeah,
Actual figures.
historical figures are not ever there. It's
Yeah, yeah.
actual figure you have to check.
Correct,
Do
correct.
not check
You
the
have to
in
see that.
days figure.
Yeah, actual figures you have to take it.
Yeah.
During the due diligence of the small company, they have actually missed one of the board meeting resolution already filed in one of the form DPT3. This to be included in the.
I think let Ravina complete the remaining portion. Now they're not connected, so why can't she cover? It's already 12:30.
Okay.
I think better
Okay.
let her complete and then we will take up the remaining questions.
Okay. Yes, Ravina.
So now we'll see how the process to conduct secretarial audit, where step 1 is appointment of secretarial auditor. Step 2, understanding the company and the compliance work. Step 3, collection of data and verification of records. Step 4, compliance review and audit execution. 5 says identification of non-compliance and identification of non-compliances and observations. Step 6, preparation of secretarial audit report in form MR3. And 7, submission to board and filing within ROC so that they can also attach this thing to their board report. I've accumulated certain laws where a secretarial auditor should should check the law while doing the secretarial audit. Companies Act, SECRA Act, Depositories Act, FEMA. Under FEMA, there are rules and regulations made on FDI, ODI, ECB. Regulations prescribed under SEBI Act 1992, SEBI SAST, SEBI, SBAB, LODR regulations, PIT regulations, ICDR regulations, ILDS regulation, RTA regulations, delisting of equity shares, buyback of securities regulation 2018. Others law as may be applicable specifically to the company. Secretarial standard issued by the Institute of the Company Secretaries of India. SS1 with respect to meeting of the board of directors, SS2 with respect to general meetings. Both are mandatory pursuant to section 118, subsection 10 of the Act 2013. SS3 with respect to dividend and SS4 with respect to report of the board of directors. Both are recommendatory.
I'll just add on here, Ravina, with my experience of doing a lot of due diligence for the IPO bound companies. And we see many times most of our friends and colleagues are forgetting about the reporting under DI, the downstream investment in FEMA. And so we have to go to the compounding. So that's not been taken care. I'm not commenting on any compliance report or certificate, but in the due diligence for the IPO, I found that it's not been reported for MR3 also, or for the compliance certificate. It has to be mandatory because it's a part of your board report. Board report should take a certificate from the auditor about the downstream investment. So that part is not taken care by our friends or colleagues of our fraternity. Yeah, go ahead.
Now, prohibition on rendering of certain services by secretarial auditor. A secretarial auditor should not render these kind of services if he is appointed as secretarial auditor in the company, which is internal audit, design and implementation of any compliance management system, investment advisory services, rendering of outsourced compliance management, record keeping and maintenance services. For stat auditors, outsourced financial services, management services, other services under Section 144 not prohibited for secretarial auditor, accounting and bookkeeping services, actuarial services, investment banking services.
I think Ravina double check about the actuarial services because SEBI 31st December 24 circular doesn't talk about the actuarial services. You
Okay,
may
ma'am.
check later, yeah.
So common non-compliance, which we as secretarial auditor we see in the company makes, is to failure to hold minimum board meeting, which is at least 4 per year for all companies except the small company, and 2 meetings in calendar year for small companies. Minutes not maintained properly or signed within 30 days. Non-compliance with independent director and women director requirements, failure to hold AGM within statutory time limits, incomplete disclosure in notices and resolution, violation of Section 96, that is AGM within 6 months of financial year end, incomplete or improperly maintained registers, failure to update register of members and directors, late or non-filing of statutory returns, errors in financial statement disclosures, failure to file resolution requiring MGT 14, failure to disclose price sensitive information, delay in quarterly financial filings, non-compliance with CG norms, which is Regulation 17 to 27 of SEBI LODR, non-disclosure of RPTs and conflict of interest, unauthorized loans to directors in violation of Section 185, non-disclosure of significant borrowing in financial statement, failure to report FDI within 30 days of receipt, non-compliance with annual FEMA return, delay in share allotment return, non-payment of stamp duty of share certificates, non-transfer of unclaimed dividend to IEPF within 7 years, violation of interim dividend declaration norms. How we can avoid those non-compliance? By conducting regular secretarial audits, concurrent quarter to quarter or half yearly, file statutory returns on time, maintain proper records and register, ensure board and general meetings are as per requirement, update and ensure compliance with respect to SEBI, FEMA, and RBI regulations and guidelines. These are
1 minute,
proposed.
Ravina, 1 minute for the previous slide, previous one. Yeah, like step by step. See, that what I want to say is, especially if you are a secretarial auditor of a big size firm, a listed company, or even an unlisted public company, according to me, it is not that problematic. But if you are accepting a secretarial audit of a private limited company, because of it is having borrowings more than 100 crores, so you have been appointed as a secretarial auditor, you have to be very, very careful. Because in case of private limited companies, as we all know that the things may not be in a structured manner. And litigation, the propensity of litigation in private limited companies is very high. When it will happen, we don't know. God forbids, whenever it happens, that point of time, all these skeletons will come out of the cupboards. But the role of the secretarial auditor is going to be scrutiny, come to the scrutiny at that point of time. So, because the allegations on corporate governance issues will be rampant. And those issues, certainly the regulator will pose it to the secretarial auditor where he is there, because he has to give a clean report. Nobody will accept a qualified report there. So you have to be very, very careful. In fact, when this was made mandated, that point of times we were, every company secretary in practice was very happy, now we can get more work. I used to caution that point of time also, it is a very risky affair, according to me, accepting the secretarial audit of a private limited company. But you need to ensure that proper risk mitigation measures are there, and you have to insert yourself as secretarial auditor. Because since you are in practice, you may add it to this one.
Sorry, I just want to differ here with you. Every private limited company is not that small company, there are private investment also. And wherever there's a private equity investment, they are rather more governed than even the listed company.
I appreciate,
Everything.
Amita. I
So,
appreciate that,
so
but there are very
yeah.
exceptions. How many private companies you have private equities and all? Tell me.
Yeah,
Very few.
unfortunately, I have many, but yeah, we should have a distinction between a private company where there's a family only are there and their investment, then there is a dispute. Then the chances are there that you are also dragged into the operation and mismanagement cases, that you have never issued so and so thing or XYZ. So that time you have to be very careful, and we should have our working papers and support tomorrow for any disciplinary action bringing to the regulator. We have experience and we are saved even from the CBI inquiries also. It happens because private limited companies have taken a huge loan, and tomorrow if they are in default and you have not specified certain things, you will be in a big trouble. So either you should have qualified, you should have raised that issue, and you cannot rely on the MR letter. Management representation letter will never save you from any regulator or from institute disciplinary action. And tomorrow we all should be geared up for NFRA also. That we don't want to get. I mean, I don't want to scare anybody, but it is just round the corner. It can come anytime. So we all should be very very vigilant. Though this platform we are today, we are not discussing about the conducting and what are the papers and what are the things to be seen. But when Ravina is putting this, it's a right time where Sudhakar ji has raised this, that we should be more mindful and vigilant, and then we should not then tomorrow come to the institute to help us and save us. Thanks.
In fact, as Sudhakar puts it very clearly, because I have been actually going through the various adjudication order issued by the ROC, RD from time to time. Most of the things what Ravina has put, almost about 90% of the cases are coming out only from the private limited company. When you say a private limited company, I don't call it private limited company, I call it at the husband-wife company. Because it is normally like that. Husband, wife, daughter, son-in-law, they are all the people, they are all the directors. They don't bother. And more or less, there is no company secretary is also there. They just get the job done, that's all. Whenever the person who is doing the job, he is only doing the job what is assigned to him. He doesn't go beyond that. So one has to be very, very careful. Otherwise, the issues are very heavy. Regulators are coming very heavily. Fines are levied left and right. I saw in share certificate was delayed for the issue of just 2 days. There was a company where the company and 2 directors were there. The regulator simply levied 1 lakh rupees penalty for all, company and director, everybody. That is the extent of which the penalties are being levied actually.
I think sometime for adjudication, people are going suo moto without any fault. And if you go suo moto, definitely penalties will come. And sometimes it is not required, but people are not understanding the Companies Act and the rules provisions. And sometimes they feel, let's clear from the regulator and pay the penalty and clarify. So sometimes it is not required also. And the second thing, regulator has given us such an opportunity. Like SEBI is relying on the company secretary. Even as a compliance officer, our level has been elevated. Even for the report, also they are expecting more good thing, and we are struggling and fighting for the tax audit also to be given to our fraternity. So, in case, I think this is a right occasion which we should rise above a normal checklist and tick box kind of an applicability. We should go beyond that and give some value addition to the company, to the stakeholders, to entire in the banks and creditors, lenders, everybody. That's a duty. We should do the diligently this report. This is a good opportunity for be appointed for 5 years. You are independent. You don't have to struggle every year to go to the management for their appointment, where there's a conflict of interest, definitely. Yeah.
Amartha, one small thing which is actually coming to my mind. Ultimately, when you look at all these non-compliances, I won't say it's a fault of the directors or it is anything. Because the question is, directors are there only to do the business. But what they do, they actually go to the professional, they are practicing capacity because they are not required to appoint the company secretary. When they go to them, and in fact, they should go a little more, as you rightly say, they should educate them. Look here, these are all the things, these are the checklists, you do this, you do this. They should educate so that this sort of the things could be avoided. We should actually raise our level in such a way to extend that compliance is actually ensured. Because when it's ultimately comes to the complaint, whether the company secretary or no company secretary, it is ultimately either the company secretary who was in employment or the company secretary in practice who's actually assisting them getting the compliances. That is what I would put it actually.
You're right, sir. We should be well updated. All our members should be very well read and updated because changes are constantly coming and you can't stop the changes. The economy is thriving. So we have to be updated. Sometimes they just don't, they are not updated, and so the questions are coming on WhatsApp, on email. But I think once you read the provision directly from the regulation, you are very clear what is expected from us.
Yes, Ravina, go ahead.
So we discussed how we can avoid those 2 pages non-compliances. Now we move towards proposed changes in ASCR. On 7th February 2025, SEBI has issued a consultation paper for public comments for following 7 proposals on aspects relating to secretarial compliance report, appointment of auditors and related party transaction of a listed company. Proposal 1. Do you agree with the revised format of ASCR as proposed in Annexure 1 of this consultation paper? We have the format given in the proposal, like in the site. Proposal 2. Should the annual secretarial compliance report be disclosed as a part of the annual report of a listed entity? Till now, ASCR is not a part of annual report, so it has been proposed by in the consultation paper. Proposal 3, should the requirement to obtain a separate certificate on compliance with corporate governance and disqualification status of directors as required under Schedule 5 of LODR regulation be exempt if ASCR is annexed to the annual report? Proposal 4, should the requirement to place a certificate from Secretarial Auditor in the general meeting on compliance with SEBI Share-Based Employee Benefits and Sweat Equity Regulation 2021 as required under Regulation 13, 26, 27, and 36 for schemes implemented by the listed entity be exempt if ASCR is annexed to the annual report? Proposal 5. Do you agree with the proposal to amend Regulation 48 of LODR regulation to require listed entities to comply with applicable secretarial? Proposal 6. Do you agree with the proposal to include changes or resignation of a secretarial auditor as a deemed material event under Schedule 3 of LODR regulation? Proposal 7. Do you agree with the proposal to mandate disclosure on total fee paid and changes of secretarial auditor during the financial year in the annual report of the listed entity? Amita ma'am, do you want to throw some light in the proposals? And
No,
since so many professionals are listening to our webinars,
no, I think these are
so do you want?
this is the I don't want to because they're still open and you can reply on the proposal to strengthen more. There are some repetitive reports, so I think SEBI has proposed whether it can be discarded and it can be made as a part of the annual compliance certificate report only that are repetitive, and I think we have to see. Only one good suggestion would be that two suggestion we can give to the SEBI when during this webinar which has come up is about the casual vacancy where the board has right to appoint in the board meeting and he will continue for the next AGM. So that means for that financial year, he will be doing the audit instead of the person who has been appointed by the shareholder in the previous AGM. That's just a concern. And the second is why removal should be only in AGM. It can be in the AGM. And the third, which while reading the chat box, somebody has suggested why not through the postal ballot. So yes, even the postal ballot could be suggested, but I think why not postal ballot? Because there has to be deliberation, discussion. So certain things cannot be with the postal ballot, but that's still an open end. It can be, it's not mentioned as a part of the postal ballot, but all the general meeting, whatever you can conduct in the general meeting can be conducted by the postal ballot. So ideally, unless otherwise specified, could be covered. But so Dakarji, throw some light on the postal ballot. Can the removal is
See, no,
to
no,
the
no. See,
postal ballot?
question is not postal ballot. Question
Removal.
is that whether you can do it in AGM or any EGM also. So the moment you can do in the EGM, you can do postal ballot also. In the AGM also, you can do postal ballot. But that postal ballot is possible only when you call the AGM. See, unless until the SEBI is going to change that, removal with the approval of the shareholders at the AGM, then you cannot have a postal ballot before that. They have to amend that the word AGM. If they say any general meeting of the shareholders, yes, but that point of time, you can convene a postal ballot. Instead of convening an EGM, you can do it by way of a postal ballot.
Right, correct, absolutely. Yeah, Ravina, nothing more on this slide.
We come to the conclusion. As we see, secretarial audit plays a vital role in strengthening corporate governance
Your
and
slide
compliance management in
slide
India
is not moving, Ravina. Yeah.
by evaluating a company's compliance with legal requirement and internal system. It promotes transparency, reduces risk, and boosts stakeholder trust. The effectiveness of secretarial audit relies on the appointment of qualified company secretary and a thorough examination of essential documents, thereby supporting the integrity and long-term sustainability of corporate entities. Here we come to an end.
I think now we can take up the remaining questions. During the due diligence of the small company, they have missed the board meeting resolution already filed in one of the DPT3 to be included in the board's report MGT7. But they mentioned a wrong board meeting date in the form MGT7. This was filed in the year 2022 as a PCS. How to make good this compliance?
I think this is not relating to it is for the compliance, but I think you can always go back and change the MGT7. The revised MGT7 is possible. And board report already, you can go to the NCLT and revise the board report.
A private limited company for the financial year 24-25 turnover crosses 25 crores and the paid up capital approximately that 3 lakhs and no borrowing. Then CS audit mandatory or not?
I think law is very clear. Let them check. The thresholds are already mentioned.
Yeah, I think they're allowed to go by that. Okay. In the earlier financial year, private limited company listed company was material subsidiary and it has appointed the secretarial auditor. But in the last financial year, private company ceases to be a material subsidiary. Either secretarial auditor is required for the current financial year.
It is required if you are falling under 204 and the thresholds are exceeding for that private limited company. Definitely, you require. Not under regulation 24A. If the questioner, who is Mr. Chirag, has put this question, so if it is material subsidiary, then yes. Not material, then go by the Companies Act. Regulation 24A is applicable only to the listed entity and material subsidiary.
If a private limited company has a turnover of 251 crore for the financial year 24-25, then secretarial authority is applicable. It is not the subsidiary of any company. Okay. Should the term loan
is it a question or?
No, it is not the question. It is some comment they have put actually. Yeah.
One question you have missed out, Bala sir. Are the threshold limit for the appointment of a full-time company secretary raised in the tune with the threshold requirement of the secretarial audit? What is this question? Because both are different provision. Full-time company secretary requirement is different and the secretarial auditor requirement is different. No threshold has been increased. Yeah. But every listed company requires. Sorry.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, when you say full-time company secretary, all the listed companies are required a company secretary, but where the threshold limit was mentioned under the Companies Act. So it is not coming under the LODR regulation. Should the term loan be taken into consideration while estimating the borrowing from the banks or exceeding 100 crores?
Of course, the term loan is also borrowing. Borrowings are borrowing. Here it is not 180 differentiate working capital limit. Here all the borrowings.
Even in the 5 years of firm, should the secretarial auditor continued by ratified in every AGM as intimated in the MCA, as also intimated to MCA?
We discussed that no ratification is mandated, but if you want, you can. But even if it has not been ratified, her term or his or her term or firm's term is for 5 years. So there is no need for ratification.
Unlike one minute, Bala. See, in this case, this gentleman is talking about MCA. So I presume that this is a unlisted company. If it is an unlisted company, there is no question of this 5 years business there.
Intimated to MCA? Why intimated? Oh, ADT form filing, he must be saying. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unlike statutory auditors, the table wherein the continuing auditor has to be appointed for the 3 years, etc., will not be applicable to secular. I think you discussed actually the 5 years term
No,
we
the
discussed
previous,
it.
it's a fresh start, unlike the
Yeah.
under the statutory auditor term when the Companies Act 2013 came in, there was earlier period was counted. Here, a fresh start is given from 1st April 2025. So previous association is not to be considered.
Suppose secretarial auditor certified the company firm in this financial year before appointment. Can we appoint him as a secretarial auditor? I think you have to go by the cutoff date what you have given actually.
No, there is a disqualification mentioned under the SEBI circular of 31st December that has to be certified. Uh, and the secretarial auditor could certify forms required to be filed with ROC. The question has been asked by Sachin, but he has not clarified. You are talking about the Regulation 24A or under the Companies Act. Regulation 24A, for that, SEBI has came out with the disqualification list. It's a complete bucket list. You check that. And if it is under the Companies Act, read section 204. He is not mentioned anywhere that he should not certify. He can certify certain forms as a secretary auditor. That's his question. So depending on which regulation you are following, regulation 24A, check the disqualification list.
No appointment of the secretarial auditor is for the 5 years is not applicable to SME listed company. Whether the SME listed company can appoint the secretary for 5 years in AGM.
Yes, because SME listed is not governed under regulation 24A, so it is under falling under the Companies Act, and there it is. Even the resolution is not required for the shareholders to appoint. It's by the board only can appoint. It can be 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. Yes, Sudhakarji, you have
But
anything?
voluntarily, if somebody wants to do that, they can
Yeah,
do
yeah,
it.
that's okay voluntarily, but they can appoint for 3 years.
Yeah, mandatory requirement is not there. Voluntarily, yes, they can. Regarding the removal of the secretarial auditor, LODR state, I think removal, we talked about it actually, AGM. Should a secretarial auditor report be addressed to the board? I think should be addressed to the shareholder in the statutory auditor's report. Yeah, now the shareholders are appointing. So in the case of the listed company, it will be addressed to the shareholders.
Secretarial report, audit report is attached as MR3 as a part of the board report, but annual secretarial compliance report is not required. It has to be given to the stock exchanges. So,
How
that
will
would,
the secretarial auditor be appointed to the casual vacancy? I think that you have discussed actually. Yeah,
by the
PCS.
board, we said that by the board within 3 months, and then next AGM. Till next AGM, is term continues. Yeah.
Yeah. A PCS firm is a partner in the company. Can the same PCS be appointed as a secretarial auditor of the said company?
Again, regulation 24A is applicable. Then check the bucket list of 31st December circular of SEBI about disqualification.
As of now, I am a PCS having a proprietary firm. Is I am being a partner of the PCS firm. Can my appointment done for two terms?
If the firm is appointed for 5 years, then firm is on behalf of firm you are signing, then you can sign for 2 years. It's a signing partner is different than the appointed firm. The firm appointment is for two term of 5 years. So that's very clear.
If the questions are shared with all the participants, it will help understand the query and the solutions. Somebody is saying that. A partner of the PCS firm is the independent director of a company. Can the PCS firm be appointed as a secretarial auditor in that said company?
I think Balasar don't pick up such question because this qualification list is very clear. Let them go through 31st December circular and check whether he or she can be appointed or not appointed.
Mr. A is the partner of the PCS. A is the auditor of the company X. After 5 years of appointment, PCS, B is appointed as auditor. Can Mr. A resign and join PCS in B and continue to the audit of the firm? then again you have to check the practice, as you rightly said. Actually, for material subsidiary, criteria has been changed from income to the turnover for updation of the slide. Somebody has actually put it. A secretarial auditor is an invitee to all the AGM. Does he have the right to speak at the AGM?
Good question. Yeah, it is not mentioned or clarified anywhere, but I believe that it's a regulation which is effective from 1st April. It will evolve, and maybe he can be. So far, it's not mandated, but he should be ideally be present in the meeting for a reply to any question about his qualification or anything. Yeah. So that
Even a statutory auditor also has, as such, no right to speak at the AGM. Unless until only in the question of his removal, he got a right to speak at the general meeting of the shareholders. The same is applicable here also. Secretarial auditor, whenever his question of his removal comes, of course, the procedure is not given as such, but one can always draw reference from the removal of statutory auditor, and they may give an opportunity of secretarial auditor whenever he is being removed.
Next question is related to the postal ballot. I think we discussed that very much. Secretarial auditor number submitted before after statutory audit of the financial audit of FS. Secretarial audit report is submitted before or after the statutory audit of financial statements.
It should be simultaneous because, in that board meeting where you are considering your financials, you are considering your board report also. Okay, if that is the case, then obviously board report is to be attached by the secretarial audit report. So you have to do it simultaneously.
Form certification.
I think that's practically, this is sometimes the question. The statutory auditor will say that I want to check the secretarial audit report, and secretarial auditor will say I want to check what is given by the statutory auditor. So normally a draft is already given by each other. Looking at the draft, I think you can take initial, and that draft will not be changed, and basis that you can give to the board your draft, and the board will approve everything in the board meeting. So that's how practically it happens. Yeah.
Forms certification and giving the certification under ESOP, etc., are within the range of the secretarial auditor. I think so. Yes, sir. Of course, it is. You have to check the compliances, because when it comes to compliances, it is.
Whenever it comes to the managing director's remuneration, and also for the ESOP, secretarial auditor is certifying certain declaration and reports and everything. So that's a part of secretarial auditor.
Yeah, you already answered here also. Which two defaults are taken by?
No, that's that I have answered. Somebody has put me the question. I was talking about the DI form, and under the FEMA non-debt instrument regulation 2019, there is a report required. In the board report you have to mention, otherwise the auditor or the secretarial auditor should also put in the report that the board has not put downstream investment certification received from the auditor. It is within the limit whether reporting has gone or not, etc. That I replied under the FEMA.
Yeah. Again, the same question is again repeated. Can secretarial auditor certify various forms required to be filed with ROC or D in the said company where the auditors documents? Okay. So you also put repetitive questions. Yeah. I am the proprietor of the firm. There was no other partner. Whether I can be appointed 2 terms for 5 years.
No, single PCS is a proprietary firm, and it's not called as a firm under the partnership firm or something. So it's an individual peer review certified. So 1 term of 5 years.
In secretarial audit, do we cover only till the end of the financial year or till the end of signing the MR3?
For the financial year, but if there is an event and if you want to cover post, but that can be, many company secretaries are doing, but I think it is for the financial year. Period is up to the financial year end 31st March. But if there is anything qualification or something, some company secretaries are putting that there is a violation on something, and it can be next year also and this year also. 2 years they put. It's
statutory auditor has the right to speak as he has had a qualification, if any, before the AGM. That's what somebody has put actually.
No. That I only put if there is a qualification and the chairman allows company secretary to speak and reply, then the PCS can reply. But as Sudhakarji rightly said, for his removal, he has a right. Other places, another way, then if the chairman requests him and during the shareholders meeting, if there is a clarification required, he can speak. That was my answer.
You are absolutely right, Amita. In fact, the company where I was working, even earlier with the regulations, we always used to insist the statutory auditor be present in the meeting. They always used to be present. And they don't have the right to speak actually, but sometimes some typical question asked, chairman used to ask, auditor will answer, he requests auditor to answer. That used to be the practice. Nice to see Dipti back again. I think we have come to the now we have come to the end of the questions actually in the chat box. Now I see almost still 249 people are there. That show the importance of this particular webinar, which is very interesting with the recent changes, etc., which has come. We have shared a lot of things. Anybody would like to write their question and ask the question, we can permit them. Although we are closer to 1 now. Let me see anybody has risen their hand. Yeah, there are 2 hands are written. One is the Karthik. Karthik, you can unmute, you can speak. Yeah. Karthik, are you there? Or Mita? Yeah. Yes, Karthik.
Yeah. So what I wanted to repeat here was repeatedly this question is coming whether the secretarial auditor can sign the certify the forms. I am of the view that if the same person should not be do his own audit. That is one part of the thing. And second is, if there is any mistake which happens in the e-forms, then he would be in a conflicting position. He won't be able to qualify the report. So this is something to be taken very seriously. At least in our forums, we keep repeating that whether there is any guidance from the institute or SEBI, or whether it is there or not there. There are certain things that we need to have our own hygiene issues. We should not bring it. This is my view. I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, Karthik ji, absolutely right. The maker cannot be checker and he cannot be the doer and auditing himself his work. That's a good situation, but I think Sudhakar ji rightly said that we do not want to put on anything on that comment. So we just kept silent about it. But
because I see that even there are retainers who are auditing their own companies. Whether there is any institute guidance or not, whether any seniors are doing it or not, certain discipline I think we should bring to our own firm, and this is the practice we have been following in our this one. We have never done any audit of a retainer client, nor do we certify their forms, nor my partners also certify the forms where I am doing the audit work, so that it's very important that we maintain our independence.
Karthik, I 100% in agreement with you when it comes to the auditor. Anything relating to the audit, which is going to be the things where you are going to audit, you are going to issue the secretarial auditor, that you should not certify. Maybe if any form which is unrelated to the audit related work, etc., that you have to take a call, that may be done, but that you have to take prudently. That's what I would actually say. Generally, you should not certify. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. I am done. Thank you.
Mita, your view, please.
Yes, sir.
Mita, you can unmute and talk. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for the wonderful session. My question is, it's a private limited company, and during the year, the consortium facilities which we take from the bank cross 100 crores. But as on 31st March, it is again retained to the same level, because during seasonal this thing, during Diwali season and all, only the loan goes up or the facilities goes up. So as per Rule 9, which talks about secretarial audit report, there is a sentence explanation that this particular what you say amount of 100 crores is to be reckoned as of 31st March 20, whatever the financial year is. So in such scenario, do you suggest taking a secretarial audit report or not?
my answer is yes, but Sudhakar ji can explain in more.
You have to see that, for the threshold limits, it is very clearly mentioned as per the latest audited financial statements. So suppose, for example, during the year, if some borrowing is there, but the end of the year, if the borrowing is not there, technically you are not triggering the threshold limits.
Yes, sir.
They have not said during the year. They said that you have to take it, the threshold limits will be triggered as per the latest audited financial statements. That's why I mentioned that prior to the Companies Amendment Act 2020, it was such situation was there. Even during there, at any point of time, the threshold limits are triggered. Immediately, you have to appoint the secretarial auditor.
Yes,
But
sir.
Companies Amendment Act 2020 brought in this thing. They said that the threshold limits are to be determined as per the latest audited financial statements. So during the current financial year, if something happens, and at the end of the financial year, if it is not there, even for next year also, you don't need to appoint secretarial auditor.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks,
Preeti,
everybody.
Preeti, over to you. You can unmute. Or Asim, anyone?
Yes. Good afternoon to you all. Sir, my question is pertaining to the one which I had raised earlier regarding that company. There was a private company in which the listed company had a stake, and they exited that entire stake in October 2024. So as of now, on 31st of March 2025, the company won't be considered as a public company. It's a private company now. So typically, for conducting the secretarial audit, we should check the 31st March 2025 date. Na? So on that date, the status of the company is changed to private, and it is not crossing the threshold limit which has been prescribed for secretarial audit. So according to me, I was of the view that secretarial audit is not required for that private company. So I just wanted to confirm your opinion on it.
The secretarial audit is applicable even to private companies also. It is not like that secretarial audit is not applicable to private companies. There are two aspects here. One is,
Correct.
I don't know whether you are talking about whether that company is a material subsidiary or not. That is a different thing. Anything, whether it is a material subsidiary or whether the threshold limits are there, they are applicable as of the latest, as per the latest audited financial statements. So if as on 31st March 24 financial statements, based on that, if the threshold limits gets triggered, even if your company is a private limited company, from public, it has been ceased to be a public company, it has become a private company. But if the borrowings are more than 100 crores from the banks and financial institutions, still the secondary audit is applicable to you. Suppose if the borrowings are not there, that secondary audit is not applicable to you. But please ensure that the threshold limits are to be there as per the latest audited financial statement, not as per the current financial figures.
Correct, sir. As on 31st of March 2024, the borrowing is within 100 crores. And the status has been changed to private company in October 2024. So just there was a slight confusion over there.
Then there is no issue.
Then there is no issue. Then it is not applicable. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Over to Asim or Mayuri.
Hello.
Yes. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. My question is that a company which was delisted on October 2024. So as per current financial statement, as on 31st March 2025, whether secretarial audit is applicable on that very company, or because threshold limit is not triggered.
If the company is a delisted company, threshold limits are not triggered, then secretarial audit is not applicable to you.
I think, Sudhakar, everyone is questioning that only, that whether they have to decide the eligibility or liability as on 31st March, that whether secretarial audit is applicable or not. Whatever is criteria. That is your answer, right?
Sudhakar has very clearly answered, as per the latest audited financial statement of the preceding year, threshold is required to be applied.
No, but no, even the status of the company, material subsidiary, listed company, private company, public company, because the status is also getting changed during the year. So that's why this question. So Sudhakar, please, over to you.
1 minute. See, if a company is a listed company, the moment it is listed, secretarial auditor appointment is mandatory, irrespective of your thresholds and all those things. Suppose a company came with a public issue in the month of, say, February 2025, And irrespective of your threshold limits, secretarial audit is applicable. And if you are appointing that auditor from 1st April 25 onwards, the amended regulations is applicable to you. What we are saying is that in case of unlisted companies, they are regulated by the Companies Act by 204 and the rule thereof. There you have to see the threshold limits, which are to be determined as per the latest audited financial statements. Okay. Second question is the unlisted material subsidiary companies of the listed entities. Even that material subsidiary is to be determined based on the latest audited financial statements. And as per that, if it is a material subsidiary, whether secretarial audit is applicable under the Companies Act or not, it doesn't matter. But if it is a material subsidiary, you have to get the secretarial audit done and have to attach that to the board's report. Second question is, suppose sometimes it may so happen in that material subsidiary, secretarial audit is not mandatory under the Companies Act because the threshold limits haven't got triggered. In such case, you don't need to attach that secretarial audit report to the board report of that company. And you don't need to even file with the ROC also. Only thing what you have to do is give that audit report that is only for the limited purpose of the compliances to be ensured by the listed entity, which is its holding company, which is its to which this company is a material subsidiary. That means it is a holding company, you can say. I hope I am clear to everyone.
Any more questions, Mr. Bala, or we can close now?
I think Mayuri wants to speak.
There is a question. Material subsidiary includes foreign material subsidiary as well for this regulation.
It's an Indian material.
Yeah, Indian materials.
Indian materials. Indian materials.
Yeah, anyone has raised hand, Mr. Bala, or some more?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, Mayuri wants to talk, I think.
Yes,
Mayuri.
sir.
Okay.
Mayuri wants to talk to you. Mayuri.
Yeah, sir, my question, I had put my question in the chat box. I actually asked what thing is, as of now, I'm practicing CS, having proprietorship firm. Now I am planning the LLP with my one of friends. So after the 2 years, I will be in the LLP format. Then if I'm auditor in any company, and then again I am taking the same client in my firm, then can I get appointed for the 1 year in the individual and other 2 in the partnership firm?
See, your appointment as an individual, is it prior to 1st April 25? According to me, there should not be a problem. All these amended regulations will start applicable to you from 1st April 25 onwards.
Okay.
That point of time, you have to see in case of a firm, if that partner who has already done that secretarial audit, if he is going to be a common partner, then that restrictions will be there. You cannot have fresh 2 terms.
Can I answer? I think
Yeah,
Mayuri,
please.
your question is that currently you are an individual and you are appointed, says for 1st April 2025, in your individual capacity for 5 years.
Yes.
After 1 year, you are merging or you are forming a new LLP, then a casual vacancy occurs because you will be discontinuing from your firm and forming an LLP.
Yes.
Or are you continuing both firm, which is not allowed, I believe. So that means you are going to be a partner in LLP, then the casual vacancy arise, and then the board will decide and board will appoint your part LLP as a intermediate, like currently whatever is the SEBI's provision, that board will appoint for casual vacancy and the AGM will regularize. That time your LLP firm can be for the fresh period as a new LLP for 5 years.
There's one more question has come. Is there any particular form needs to be filed with ROC relating to the appointment of the secretarial auditor in the listed company?
No, there is no such ADT1 form, kind of a form for the secretarial auditor.
Yeah, that
In
is
the
all I
board
think
report,
we are.
in the notice it will go. So, yeah.
Yeah, we are done with all the questions. I don't think there is any other
Wanted to speak
hands are
something.
also
Did you
raised
want to
there.
ask me?
That's the thing. Amita,
Okay.
many thanks to you for your excellent sharing of the knowledge, giving the various clarification etc. Many thanks for sparing your time, providing us with the ample of knowledge today.
It's my pleasure to be here on the platform, and thank you, Mehta.
Really enriched with your experiences. It is nice meeting you again, because earlier we met in 2 occasions. Sudhakar, you don't expect me any thanks to you. You are always there. So I'm not going to tell you anything. You are as always with us. So I'm not going to say any special thanks to you. You are extraordinarily contributing in every webinar where you are there with your excellent knowledge. Thanks a lot. Deepti, your last word, please.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks, Amita. Thanks for your time. Sorry, friends, today I was not available because I have some personal commitment. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Amita. Thank you, Sudhakar. Thank you, Mr. Bala. Thank you, Ravina. And thanks, everyone. Let's meet next week. Till that, bye, everyone.